Good afternoon, dear students. Previous session we learned the condition of the South Africa and how the white people they were oppressed and even they were ill treated the blacks. And even though, dear students, finally uh, we learned about how the black people, especially under the leadership of Nelson Mandela and as well as under the umbrella of the African National Congress, so they were struggled a lot to especially to stop the practice of apartheid system in South Africa by the white government. Of course, dear students, even the government, it was also realized that they could no longer keep the blacks under their rule through repression. So the white regime changed its policies and even discriminatory laws were repealed also, and ban on political parties and even the medias so completely lifted. And after 20 years of imprisonment, the great personality of South Africa, the great personality of South Africa, Nelson Mandela, also released from the jail as a free man. And also, dear students, finally, at the midnight of 26th April 1994, the new national flag of the Republic of South Africa, it was unfurled, marking the newly born democracy in the world. So the apartheid government came to an end and paving way for the formation of a multiracial government instead of a racial government. So in the previous class I told so how the Nelson Mandela was the first president of New South Africa was expressed in his transition. So after the emergence of the new democratic South Africa, black leaders appealed to fellow blacks to forgive the whites for the atrocities they had committed while in power. And also, they said, let us build a new South Africa which was based on equality for all races and men and women. See, especially on a democratic values, social justice, and human rights. The party that ruled through oppression and brutal killings, and the party that led the freedom struggle sat together to draw up a new constitution or the common constitution for the new South Africa. So, after 2 years of long discussion and debate, they came out with one of the finest constitution in the world. And finally, dear students, this constitution gave to its citizens the most extensive rights which is available in any country. So together they decided that in the search for a solution to the problems. So nobody should be excluded. No one should be treated as a demo. They agreed that everybody should become part of the solution, should become part of the solution, whatever they might have done or represented in the past. So the preamble to the South African Constitution sums of this spirit. See, the South African Constitution inspires democrats all over the world, not only the South Africa. So the South African Constitution inspires democrats all over the world, a state denounced by the entire world till recently as the most undemocratic one is now seen as a model of democracy. See, since a long time, so which is followed the undemocratic type of the government. Now it's seen as a model of democracy. That is about South Africa, New South Africa. See, what made this change possible was the determination of the people. This is about, it is completely depend upon the determination of the people. Otherwise, it may not. So, here, dear students, so a lot of changes brought. Even in the undemocratic system. So, they were seen as one of the model of democracy in the present world. So, how this was possible? So actually, dear students, so because of the determination of the people of South Africa to work together, so this is what the main, to work together, to transform bitter experiences into the binding glue of a rainbow nation. What a beautiful, it is well known as a, actually these are all said by the Honorable Nelson Mandela. That is about, see, it's possible was the determination of the people of South Africa to work together to transform bitter experiences into the binding glue of a rainbow nation. So, speaking on the South African Constitution, Nelson Mandela, he was said like this: the Constitution of South Africa speaks of both the past and the future. So, about the Constitution of South Africa, so Nelson Mandela, he was actually said like this: the Constitution of South Africa speaks of both the past and the future. So, on the one hand, it is an solemn pact in which we, as South Africans, declare to one another that we shall never permit a repetition of our racist, brutal, and repressive past. They don't want to repeat all those. But it is more than that, it is also a charter for the transformation of our country into one which is truly shared by all its people. A country in its fullest sense belongs to all of us, black and white, women and men. So Nelson Mandela, he was said like this about the Constitution of South Africa. I hope dear students, you all have understood this topic. So how the apartheid system, the segregation system, it was systematically followed by the white governments, and how finally the native Africans, or those who are considered as an oppressive class, those who are completely discriminated by their racial. So they were, and how again under the leadership of African Indian National Congress or ANC, under the guidelines of the Nelson Mandela, how they were fought against this apartheid system to abolish in the South Africa, and how finally the new South Africa was born, and how the both the whites and the blacks, they were sat together to form the constitution, and how the national leaders of South Africa, so they were repealed, they were requested to the black people to live together even by forgetting all those things whatever done by the racist government. So at present, in the place of a racist government, there we can see the multiracial government, and even so one of the world model of democracy, that is about the South African democracy. And also, dear students, so they were introduced and they were contributed. The world has ever had that kind of the finest constitution also. Now, let us discuss about why do we need a constitution. ಸಂವಿಧಾನ ಯಾಕೆ ಬೇಕು ಅಂತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ವೈ ಡು ವಿ ನೀಡ್ ಅ ಕಾನ್ಸ್ಟಿಟ್ಯೂಷನ್? So regarding this topic, we learned in the previous year also. Anyhow, dear students, in a democratic countries, the constitution is very required because the constitution only, it's like the guidelines or a set of rules and regulations for the whole country. See, the South African example is a good way to understand why we need a constitution. It is one of the best example to understand why we require, why do we need a constitution, and what do constitutions do for us. The oppressors and the oppressed in this new democracy were planning to live together as equals. Both those who are oppressed and those who are actually oppressed by the others. So both, so they were planning, the oppressor and the oppressed in this new democracy, they were planning to live together as equals. It was not going to be easy for them to trust each other. ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ವಿಚಾರ ಮಾಡಿ ಮಕ್ಕಳ, ನಾವು ಯಾರ್ದಾದ್ರೂ ಒಬ್ರು ಸ್ನೇಹಿತರ ಜೊತೆ, ಯಾರಾದ್ರೂ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ಸ್ ಜೊತೆ, ಯಾರಾದ್ರೂ ನಮ್ಮ ನೈಬರ್ಸ್ ಜೊತೆ ಸಣ್ಣ ಪುಟ್ಟ ವಿಚಾರಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವು ವೈಮನಸ್ಸು ಅಥವಾ ಜಗಳ ಇತ್ತು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದಾಗ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ವಿ ಕ್ಯಾನಾಟ್ ಬಿಲೀವ್ ದೆಮ್. We don't like to believe also because of the small things. So even though hundreds of years, ನೂರಾರು ವರ್ಷಗಳ ಕಾಲ ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್ ಆಗಿ ದಮನಕಾರಿ ನೀತಿಯನ್ನು ಅನುಸರಿಸಿ ಸೊ ಆ ರಾಷ್ಟ್ರವನ್ನು ತುಳಿದು ಹಾಳಿದ್ರು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಅಂತವ್ರ ಜೊತೆ ಹೇಗೆ ಅಧಿಕಾರವನ್ನು ಹಂಚ್ಕೊಂಡು ಸೊ ಒಂದೇ ಅಂತೇಳಿ ಬದುಕೋದು ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ವಿಚಾರ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರಲ್ಲ. Really, that is the great, because it is the question of trust each other. ಸೊ ಒಬ್ಬರ ಮೇಲೆ ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ನಂಬಿಕೆ ಏನಿದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಸೊ ಈ ಒಂದು ಸನ್ನಿವೇಶ, ದೇ ಹ್ಯಾಡ್ ದೇರ್ ಫಿಯರ್ಸ್. ಆಫ್ ಕೋರ್ಸ್ ಡಿಯರ್ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್, ನೆನ್ನೆ ತನಕ ಶತ್ರುಗಳು, ಇವತ್ತು ನಾವು ಪಕ್ಕದಲ್ಲಿ ಕುತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಟೀ ಕುಡಿತೀವಿ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ಕಾಫಿ ಶೇರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ಆಫ್ ಕೋರ್ಸ್ ಈವನ್ ವಿ ಆರ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಫೀಲ್ ಫಿಯರ್ಸ್ ಸಮ್ವೇರ್ ಇನ್ ಅವರ್ ಹಾರ್ಟ್. ದೇ ಹ್ಯಾಡ್ ದೇರ್ ಫಿಯರ್ಸ್. ಇವನ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಸೌತ್ ಆಫ್ರಿಕನ್ ಕೇಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ, ದೇ ವಾಂಟೆಡ್ ಟು ಸೇಫ್ ಗಾರ್ಡ್ ದೇರ್ ಇಂಟರೆಸ್ಟ್. ಬೋತ್ they wanted to safeguard their interests. The black majority was keen to ensure that the democratic principle of majority rule was not compromised. They wanted substantial social and economic rights. Here, the black people, so they wanted a substantial social and economic rights, not only the democratic principles of majority or other the democratic principles, including the substantial social and economic rights. The white minority was keen to protect its privileges and property. ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿದೆ, ಸೊ ಅವ್ರು ತಮ್ಮ ಪ್ರಿವಿಲೇಜಸ್ ಏನಿತ್ತು, ತಮ್ಮ ಪ್ರಾಪರ್ಟಿ ಏನಿತ್ತು, ಅದನ್ನ ಪ್ರೊಟೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕಾಗಿತ್ತು. ಸೊ ಆಫ್ಟರ್ ಲಾಂಗ್ ನೆಗೋಷಿಯೇಷನ್ಸ್, both parties agreed to a compromise. After long negotiations, both parties, the whites and the blacks, so they were agreed to a compromise. The whites agreed to the principle of majority rule and that one of person one vote. The whites, they were agreed to that because the basic principle of the democracy is that political equality and equal political rights. So here the whites agreed to the principle of majority rule and that one person one vote. Of course dear students, it is one of the major key feature in a democratic system, one person one vote and then one value. They also agreed to accept some basic rights for the poor and the workers. Even both, so they were accept to provide some of the basic rights for the poor class and as well as for the workers class. The blacks agreed that majority rule would not be absolute. Of course majority rule, but it would not be absolute. They agreed that majority would not take away the property of the white minority. So this compromise was not easy. Whatever this compromise is there, no. So this was not easy one. So how was the compromise going to be implemented? How they were implemented in South Africa? Even if they managed to trust each other, what was the guarantee that this trust will not be broken in future? So there are a lot of questions regarding this. Of course, there is a guarantee. They trust each other. But what was the guarantee? The trust will not be broken in future. So in the future ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅವತ್ತು ಟ್ರಸ್ಟ್ ಬ್ರೋಕನ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಥವಾ ಅದು ಶ್ಯೂರಿಟಿ ಏನಿದೆ ಮಕ್ಕಳ. ಸೊ ರಿಯಲಿ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಅ ವೆರಿ ವೆರಿ crucial situation for the both the people also, white people also and as well as for the black people also. See dear students, the only way to build and maintain trust in such a situation is to write down some rules of the game that everyone would abide by. So it's very essential. The only way to build and maintain trust in such a situation is to write down some rules of the game that everyone would abide by. These rules lay down how the rulers are to be chosen in future. ನಿಮಗೆ ನೆನಪಿರಲಿ ಮಕ್ಕಳ, ನಾವು ಒಂದು ಗೇಮ್ ಆಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಅಫ್ಕೋರ್ಸ್ ವಿ ಆರ್ ಆಲ್ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ಸ್ ವೈಲ್ ಪ್ಲೇಯಿಂಗ್ ಗೇಮ್. ಆದರೆ ಆಟ ಆಡುವಾಗ ನಾವೆಷ್ಟೇ ಕ್ಲೋಸ್ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ಸ್ ಇದ್ರೂ ಸಹ ನಾವು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸೊ ಆಟವನ್ನು ಗೆಲ್ಲೋದೇ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಆಟ ಗೆಲ್ಲೋ ಬರದಲ್ಲಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾಮನ್ ಆಗಿ ಆಗ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು ಜಗಳಗಳು, ಸಣ್ಣ ಪುಟ್ಟ ವೈಮನಸ್ಸುಗಳು, ಕಾನ್ಫ್ಲಿಕ್ಟ್ಸ್, ಡಿಸ್ಪ್ಯೂಟ್ಸ್, ಬೇಸರ. ಸೊ ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಂದು ಆಟಕ್ಕೂ ತನ್ನದೇ ಆದ ನಿಯಮಗಳಿವೆ. ಆ ನಿಯಮಗಳ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಆ ನಿಯಮಗಳು ಎಲ್ಲೂ ಸಹ ಬ್ರೇಕ್ ಆಗದೆ ಇರುವಾಗೆ ಅದನ್ನ ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ, ಅದನ್ನ ಪ್ರೊಟೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ, ಅಥವಾ ಏನೇ ಕಾನ್ಫ್ಲಿಕ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಡಿಸ್ಪ್ಯೂಟ್ಸ್ ಬಂದರೂ ಸಹ ಅದನ್ನ ಸಾಲ್ವ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಒಬ್ರಲ್ಲ ಇಬ್ರಲ್ಲ ಮೂವರು, ಲೈಕ್ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಡಿಪೆಂಡ್ ಅಪಾನ್ ದ ಗೇಮ್ಸ್. ಅಂಪೈರ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ದೇ, ತೀರ್ಪುಗಾರರು ಇರ್ತಾರೆ ಮಕ್ಕಳ. ಎಷ್ಟೋ ಸಾರಿ ತೀರ್ಪುಗಾರರು ಸಹ ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಗೇಮ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸರಿಯಾದ ತೀರ್ಪನ್ನು ಕೊಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಫೇಲ್ಯೂರ್ ಆದ್ರು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, ಸೊ ಅಗೇನ್ ದೇ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಗೋ ಥ್ರೂ ದ ಟೆಕ್ನಾಲಜಿ ಆಲ್ಸೋ. ನೀವು ನೋಡಿರ್ಬೋದು ಬಹುಶಃ ಕ್ರಿಕೆಟ್ ಆಟ ಆಡ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ. ಸೊ ದೇ ಆರ್ ಯೂಸಿಂಗ್ ದ ಟೆಕ್ನಾಲಜಿ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಟು ಫೈಂಡ್ ಔಟ್. ಸಿ ಇದು ಒಂದು ಆಟಕ್ಕೆ ಸೀಮಿತ ಆದ್ರೆ ಮಕ್ಕಳ. ಅಂಡ್ ವಾಟ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ ದ ಕಂಟ್ರೀಸ್ ಪೀಪಲ್ where they were living together, the different racial, not community, not religion, different race people, different color people like white and black in South Africa. See, whatever the rules laid down, how the rulers are to be chosen in future. So these rules also determine what the elected governments are empowered to do and what they cannot do. So the constitution or the rules laid down is very clearly what the elected governments are empowered to do and also what they cannot do. ಅವರು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಬಾರ್ದು ಅನ್ನೋದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಸಹ ಸೊ ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ ಪಿಕ್ಚರ್ ಅನ್ನ ಅದು ನೀಡ್ತದೆ. So finally, these rules decide the rights of the citizen. What are the citizen? I mean the rights of the citizen. These rules will work only if the winner cannot change them very easily. So this is what the South Africans did. They agreed on some basic rules. They also agreed that these rules will be supreme and also that no government will be able to ignore these, whichever it may be the different. So this set of basic rules are there now. This used to called as a constitution, which cannot be breakable by even the government also and even by the people also, even by anyone also. The rules and regulations of the constitutions, whatever it may be. Of course, we can make some changes and all with the approval in the both the parliament and as well as the states. ಸೊ ಸಣ್ಣ ಪುಟ್ಟ ಬದಲಾವಣೆಗಳನ್ನು ತರುವುದು ಹೊರತು ಸೊ ಸಂಪೂರ್ಣವಾಗಿ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಟು ಡಿಫಿಕಲ್ಟ್ ಟಾಸ್ಕ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಡಿಯರ್ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್, ಚೇಂಜ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಕಾನ್ಸ್ಟಿಟ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಇನ್ ಎನಿ ಕಂಟ್ರಿ. ಸೊ ವಾಟ್ ಎವರ್ ವಿ ಆರ್ ಅಕ್ಸೆಪ್ಟೆಡ್ These the basic rules are there. No, this set of basic rules used to called as a constitution. Constitution making is not a unique to South Africa. Every country has diverse groups of people. Not only India, not only so every country has diverse groups of people. Their relationship may not have been as bad as that between the whites and the blacks in South Africa. Of course, dear students, so ಎಲ್ಲ ದೇಶಗಳಲ್ಲೂ ಎಲ್ಲ ರಾಷ್ಟ್ರಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಜನತೆಯ ಆ ಒಂದು ಸಂಬಂಧ ಏನಿದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಆ ಒಂದು ಇಂಟರ್ನಲ್ ಆಂತರಿಕ ಸಂಬಂಧ ಏನಿದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಅದು ಗುಡ್ ಅಂತಾನೆ ಹೇಳಲಿಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ, ಅದನ್ನ ಬೇಡ ಅಂತಾನೆ ಹೇಳಲಿಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. But all over the world, people have differences of opinion and interests. Of course, dear students, ಒಂದ್ ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು 4 ಜನ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, ಸೊ ಒಂದು ವಿಚಾರದ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಒಪಿನಿಯನ್ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಕೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, ಸೊ ನಾವು 4 ಜನದಲ್ಲೂ ಸಹ ವಿಭಿನ್ನವಾದಂತಹ ಒಪಿನಿಯನ್ ಅನ್ನು ಕೊಡ್ತೀವಿ. We used to give a different opinions within our family. And what about the country people? Of course, so there is no doubt. So there are a lot of differences of opinion and as well as interest also. So whether democratic or not, most countries in the world need to have these basic rules. So not only for the democratic rules, I mean the not only for the democratic countries, so whichever it may be the form of the different form of the government, so the basic rules are required for the every countries, whether democratic or non-democratic countries. So this applies not just to governments. Understood now? So any association needs to have its constitution. It could be a club in your area, a cooperative society, or a political party. So they all need a constitution. ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಂದು ಮಕ್ಕಳ ನೀವು ಒಂದು ಕೋಆಪರೇಟಿವ್ ಸೊಸೈಟಿ ಬ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಮಾಡಿ, ನಿಮ್ಮದೇ ಆದ ಒಂದು ಸಂಘವನ್ನ ನೀವು ನಿರ್ಮಾಣ ಮಾಡಿ, ಒಂದು ಅಸೋಸಿಯೇಷನ್, ಎನಿ ಒನ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಆರ್ಗನೈಸೇಷನ್. ಸೊ ಫಾರ್ ಎವ್ರಿ ಆರ್ಗನೈಸೇಷನ್ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಅ ವೆರಿ ಎಸೆನ್ಷಿಯಲ್ ಟು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ a one set of rules and regulations or constitutions. So regarding this, so I would like to continue in the next class. Thank you. Have a nice day.